Yes po, Doc.
Okay. So, good morning. Today, I'll be discussing to you the scalp calvaria, meninges, and cranial fossa. Okay, let's start first with the scalp. So, the scalp consists of the skin, which is normally hair-bearing, subcutaneous tissue, and the scalp covers the neurocranium. Later, I will discuss about the neurocranium. So, the scalp, from other books, say it extends from the superior nuchal lines on the occipital bone. Other books will say it's from the external occipital protuberance, but they are of the same level, more or less, so pareho naman tama yan. Both landmarks are correct. To the supraorbital margins of the frontal bone, in other books, and some sources will say to the superciliary arches. Both landmarks are also correct. Laterally, the scalp extends over the temporal fascia to the zygomatic arches. So as you can see, the scalp is an acronym for its 5 layers. Just remember that the first 3 layers, the SCA, or the skin, connective tissue, and the aponeurotic epicranialis, they make up the scalp proper. So they are fused together and they are connected intimately, and these 3 units move as a unit. Okay? So the 4th layer is the loose areolar tissue, and the 5th layer is the pericranium or the periosteum. So in Snell, the layer of the skin, the first layer, in Snell it says that it is thick and hair-bearing, and Moore says that the skin of the scalp is thin except in the occipital region. So conflicting, but more or less both are acceptable. So para walang gulo, I will not ask this question in the exam. So the skin contains sweat glands, sebaceous glands, which can form into a sebaceous cyst if there will be accumulation of secretions and clogging, and these secretions will be encapsulated, so it will form a sebaceous cyst. Okay? Hair follicles, abundant air supply, arterial supply, good venous and lymphatic drainage. Next layer is the connective tissue, which is also known as the superficial fascia. It is fibrofatty. When we say fibrofatty, it's composed of fats and fibers. So which fibers? The collagenous and elastic fibers. These contain fibers that attach to the external surface of the blood vessels. When a blood vessel of the scalp is cut, the connective tissue holds the lumen of the vessel open, resulting in profuse bleeding. Okay, so there is clinical implication. Now, the fat content of this connective tissue layer decreases with age. This layer also connects, kaya connective tissue, it connects the skin, the first layer, to the third layer, to the aponeurosis. It is richly vascularized and it is supplied with cutaneous nerves. So, some clinical correlation. The scalp has a profuse blood supply to nourish the hair follicles. So as I said earlier, the arterial walls are attached to the fibrous septa in the connective tissue layer, and they are unable to contract or retract to allow blood clotting to take place. So what happens if you encounter a patient at the emergency room with some patients will present with very small lacerated wounds but really profusely bleeding. So what you will do is just apply local pressure to the scalp. Yung, for example, gauze, thick gauze, ganyan. Tapos diinan nyo lang. Local pressure. That's the only satisfactory method of stopping the bleeding. Okay? Given that the scalp has a profuse blood supply. Now, the next layer is the aponeurosis or the epicranial aponeurosis, also known as Gallia aponeurotica. It is a broad, strong, tendinous sheet that covers the calvaria. Calvaria is, later I will tackle also this part. this area, this is the calvaria, okay, that part of the skull. So the aponeurosis serves as the attachment for the muscle bellies converging from the forehead and the occiput, that's occipitofrontalis muscle, and from the temporal bones on each side, the tempora parietalis and superior auricular muscles. And collectively, these structures are called musculoaponeurotic epicranius. Okay, so these are just the OIA of the different muscles that I just mentioned. The OIA of the frontalis, origin, insertion, and action. The occipitalis muscle and the superior auricularis muscle. And as a unit, they are this epicranius, all parts of the epicranius, both the muscle and the aponeurosis, they are being supplied by the facial nerve. Next, clinical correlation. So the tension of the epicranial aponeurosis produced by the tone of the occipitofrontalis muscle is important in all deep wounds of the scalp. Kasi there is there is a pull by the muscle on the aponeurosis. So there is constant tension. That if, for example, the aponeurosis has been divided, it was involved in a laceration, the wound will gape open. So for satisfactory healing to take place, the opening in the aponeurosis must be closed with sutures, not just the layers above it. Okay? Did you get that? Section B?
Yeah.
Yes, all right. Next layer is the loose areolar tissue. It is a sponge-like layer which occupies the subaponeurotic space. Sub is ilalim, under. So this is the space under the aponeurosis. It loosely connects the epicranial aponeurosis to the periosteum of the skull or the pericranium. So it allows the free movement of the scalp proper, or what I said kanina, the first three layers, the SCA, that's the scalp proper, over the underlying periosteum. Now, remember that this layer, the loose areolar tissue, is also called the dangerous layer. Why? Because of its emissary veins. Okay, it contains some important emissary veins. What are these veins? These are valveless veins. They connect the superficial veins of the scalp with the diploic veins of the skull bones and with the intracranial venous sinuses. Okay, so this layer may distend with fluid as a result of injury or infection. Why dangerous layer? The spread of infection can be intracranially due to the emissary veins going to the superior sagittal sinus. And since the space is not limited anteriorly, the infection and fluid can spread to the eyelid and the root of the nose. So again, if an infection occurs in the scalp, it can spread within the loose connective tissue layer. Therefore, the loose connective tissue layer is often called the dangerous area. Okay, from the dangerous area, infection may pass into the cranial cavity through the emissary vein. So remember that. Remember those things about the loose areolar tissue. Next, the last layer is the pericranium. It is a dense layer of connective tissue that forms the external periosteum of the neurocranium. So this is firmly attached to the bone by what we call the Sharpie's fibers. Okay? Let's go to the sensory nerves of the scalp. Just remember that the main trunks of these sensory nerves lie in the dense connective tissue layer. So that's the second layer. And there are two main groups of sensory nerves, okay? The branches of the trigeminal nerve are located anterior to the ear. So this one. And the branches of the cervical spinal nerves are located posterior to the ear, okay? So I will just point out to you anyway the area that they supply. Nandito naman na sa slide. So I will just mention them from medial going laterally. Okay, let's start first with the trigeminal branches. This is the supratrochlear nerve. Okay, again, notice that they are anterior to the ear, the branches of the trigeminal nerve. So supratrochlear nerve, and then the supraorbital nerve, we're going laterally, no? And then the zygomaticotemporal nerve, and the auriculotemporal nerve. So again, branches of trigeminal. And then those sensory nerves located posterior to the ear, it's the great auricular nerve. These are cervical spinal branches. Lesser occipital nerve, the greater occipital nerve, and the third occipital nerve. Those are the sensory nerves of the scalp. These are just a reiteration of the facial nerve supplying the muscles of the musculo-aponeurotic unit, and the posterior auricular nerve supplying the occipitalis and superior and posterior auricular muscles. Now, the arteries of the scalp, again, this is always being emphasized. The scalp has a rich blood supply, okay? And then the arteries course within the second layer. The arterial walls are firmly attached to the dense connective tissue in which the arteries are embedded, limiting their ability to constrict or retract when cut, therefore resulting in profuse bleeding even with just minor cuts. Okay? The arteries of the scalp, most of them are branches coming from the external carotid artery, occipital, posterior auricular, and superficial temporal. Okay? And branches of the internal carotid artery. So, there. Okay, for bigger scalp lacerations, no, because of the profuse blood supply, it is often possible to replace large areas of scalp that are only hanging to the skull by a narrow pedicle. So kahit konting-konti na lang yung connection nung natanggal na layer, no, pwede pa silang i-suture, okay? But should be appropriate vascular suturing, which reduces the chance of necrosis. Okay? So, how do you do that? By means of debridement. When you say debridement, debride, you remove the non-viable tissues. Okay? So, as you can see, wait lang. Yung mga blackened edges dito, ayan o, you see the black areas. You have to remove that, okay? You have to cut or incise, and then this one also on this opposite side before you try to suture the edges of the two areas, okay? To maintain a good vascular supply. Otherwise, the wound will be prone to infection and hence greater chances of necrosing. Venous drainage of the scalp is just counterpart of its arterial blood supply. Okay. For the lymphatic drainage, the anterior scalp and forehead will drain into the submandibular lymph node. The lateral scalp will drain into the superficial parotid lymph node. Scalp above and behind the ear to the mastoid lymph node, and the posterior scalp to the occipital lymph node. Now, let's discuss the Calderia. Mathematical equation, okay? The cranium or the skull is composed of the neurocranium and the viscerocranium. As a whole, the cranium or the skull is the skeleton of the head, and it is composed of 22 named bones, okay? So the two parts, first is the neurocranium. It is the bony case of the brain in its meninges or the membranous coverings. So this is the neurocranium. In adults, it is formed by a series of 8 bones. 4 singular bones, the frontal, ethmoidal, sphenoidal, and occipital, and we have 2 sets of paired temporal and paired parietal bones. The viscerocranium is the facial skeleton, and it forms the anterior part of the cranium. Okay? Now, let's just discuss first the neurocranium. kasi nandun yung calvaria. Okay? So the neurocranium has a dome-like roof we call the calvaria or the skull cap. So this is that part of the neurocranium. Okay? This is the superior view of the calvaria, and this is the inferior view. Kapag tinaob nyo, that's the view. No? The neurocranium has a floor or cranial base we call the basicranium. So this is this part. Okay, the basicranium. It is formed primarily by irregular bones, the sphenoidal and the temporal. So this is the top view of the basicranium, and this is the inferior view. Clear yon, section B?
Yes po.
Okay. So the calvaria is formed primarily by flat bones. We have the frontal, the paired parietal, and the occipital bone. So again, this is the superior view. Most calvareal bones are united by fibrous interlocking sutures. So the coronal, sagittal, and the lambdoid. Okay, and these are sutural ligaments that are connective tissues between the bones. Now let us compare fractures of the skull between an infant and an adult. Fractures of the skull are more common in adult than in the young child. In the infant skull, the bones are more resilient, mas matibay, than in the adult skull, and fibrous sutural ligaments separate them. While in the adult, the inner table of the skull is particularly brittle, and the sutural ligaments begin to ossify during the middle age. So, as an analogy, the adult skull may be likened to an eggshell in that it possesses a certain limited resilience beyond which magsisplinter na siya. Okay? A severe localized blow produces a local indentation, often accompanied by splintering of the bone. So that's the adult skull. Blows to the vault often result in a series of linear fractures which radiate out through the thin areas of the bone. And the petrous parts of the temporal bone and the occipital crest strongly reinforce the base of the skull and tend to deflect these linear fractures. But in the young child, the skull can be compared into a table tennis ball. Okay? In that, a localized blow produces a depression but without splintering. And this common type of circumscribed lesion in the young child, sa fracture nila, we call it pond fracture. So that's in the young child. Now, the composition of the calvaria, this is an inferior view. We have ito yung external table, and this is the internal table, and these tables are made of compact bone. And then we have the diplo, the layer in between the inner and outer table, which is composed of cancellous spongy bone. We also have the sagittal groove for the superior sagittal sinus, the grooves for the middle meningeal vessels. Other landmarks, we have the frontal crest and these pits, yung mga parang depression of granular pits or foviola for arachnoid granulations. Mamaya di-discuss natin yan. Okay. Cranial meninges. Remember that the cranial meninges are membranous coverings of the brain. So we have the dura mater, the arachnoid mater, and the pia mater. So we have three cranial meninges. What are their functions? To protect the brain, to supporting framework for arteries, veins, and venous sinuses. When we say venous sinuses, they are spaces. Okay, mamaya later I will also discuss that. And they enclose, these cranial meninges, they enclose a fluid-filled cavity, the subarachnoid space. So remember that. Now let's first go to the first layer, the dura mater. It's tough, thick, external fibrous layer. Okay. It is dense, thick, dense, and bilaminar. When we say bilaminar, it is composed of two layers. So the dura mater is composed of two layers. It is adherent to the internal table of the calvaria. Now, the two layers of the cranial dura. The first layer is the external periosteal layer. It is formed by the periosteum covering the internal surface of the calvaria. It adheres to the internal surface of the cranium. Its attachment is tenacious along the suture lines and in the cranial base. It is continuous at the cranial foramina with the periosteum on the external surface of the calvaria, but remember that it is not continuous with the dura of the spinal cord because the dura of the spinal cord consists only of a meningeal layer. So if it is not continuous with the meningeal layer of the dura, then what is continuous? Its internal layer. So sabi natin, the dura of the cranial dura has two layers. The second layer, the internal meningeal layer of the dura, is the one that is continuous at the level of the foramen magnum with the spinal dura covering the spinal cord. Okay? So, the fused external and internal layers of the dura over the calvaria can be easily stripped from the cranial bones. Okay? But it doesn't mean that if it can be easily stripped, it is natural to have a space between them. So in life, such a separation between the dura cranial interface, ibig sabihin dun sa between the inner table of the skull and the periosteal layer of the dura, if there will be a separation, it is not normal. Okay, it means that there is a blood or fluid within that space. We call the epidural space. Is that clear, section B?
Yes, pwede po pa ulit po. Sorry.
Okay, which part? Itong epidural space?
Yung dural cranial interface po.
Okay. Dural cranial interface is that space between the inner table of the calvaria, diba? The skull, and the periosteal layer of the bilaminar dura mater. Remember that the dura mater is composed of periosteal layer and meningeal layer. So, ang adherent doon sa inner table is the periosteal layer. Tama? Nagets yun?
Yes, Doc. Thank you po.
Okay. So, if there will be a space, naturally, madaling ma-strip, madaling matanggal from its adherence, no? Yung periosteal layer from the inner table. But it doesn't mean that it is natural for that to happen. It's a natural phenomenon. Kapag nagkaroon ng space between this dura cranial interface, we call that the epidural space because it's above the dura mater. Epi is above the dura, meaning above its periosteal layer. It should be pathological. It's either it's filled with blood or fluid. Nagets yon? Okay na yon?
Yes, Doc. Thank you po.
Alright. Okay. So, sabi natin doon sa dural cranial interface, it is easily stripped. But in the cranial base, the two dural layers are firmly attached and difficult to separate from the bones. Okay? Now, the internal meningeal layer, that's the second layer of the dura, okay? It is a supporting layer that form dural enfoldings or what we call reflections. And these dural enfoldings divide the cranial cavity into compartments. Okay? So, remember that these, yung mga i-discuss natin in a few seconds, yung mga falx, okay? They are from the internal meningeal layer of the dura. So, ano yan? Yan. First, yung falx cerebri. The falx cerebri, ito. Itong white part na makikita niyo. That's the largest dural enfolding. It lies in the longitudinal cerebral fissure that separates the right and left cerebral hemispheres. So, ito ang tatandaan nyo. Separating the right and left cerebral hemisphere. So, that's falx cerebri. Okay? Now, it ends, this falx cerebri ends by becoming continuous with the tentorium cerebelli. So this is the tentorium cerebelli. Okay? This one. Okay. Imagine that the cranial cavity is divided into a first floor and the second floor. Okay? And the second floor is divided into 2 rooms. What divides the cranial cavity into a first and second floor is the tentorium cerebelli. And what divides the second floor into 2 rooms is the falx cerebri. Did you get that, section B?
Yes po.
Okay. That is why the tentorium cerebelli divides the cranial cavity into supra, so that's the second floor, supratentorial and infratentorial, the first floor, compartments. Okay? While the supratentorial compartment is divided into right and left halves by the falx cerebri. And then the concave anteromedial border of the tentorium cerebelli is free, producing a gap we call the tentorial notch, through which the brainstem, the midbrain pons, and medulla oblongata extends from the posterior into the middle cranial fossa. Okay? Now, the falx cerebelli is a vertical dural enfolding that lies inferior to the tentorium cerebelli. So, what it partially separates are the cerebellar hemisphere. Falx cerebri separates the cerebral hemisphere. Falx cerebelli separates the cerebellar hemispheres. The diaphragma cell is the smallest dural enfolding, a circular sheet of dura between the cleaner processes, forming a partial roof over the hypophyseal fossa, which covers the pituitary gland. And it has just an aperture, an opening for passage of the infundibulum and the hypophyseal veins. Okay, next, dural venous sinuses. When we say sinuses, again, spaces. They are spaces. They are not veins, okay? They are spaces where veins pass through. So they are endothelium lined. They are found between the periosteal and the meningeal layers of the dura. Okay, so remember that the dura is bilaminar, and in between there are spaces we call the dural venous sinuses. And large veins from the surface of the brain empty into these sinuses. So this is the superior sagittal sinus. Ito. Okay. And then it ends at the confluence of the sinuses. Confluence, this area para siyang intersection sa may the intersection ng roads, no? So all the sinuses nag-intersect sila at this area of confluence, okay? The arachnoid granulations are collections of arachnoid villi. They are tufted prolongations, and they are structurally adapted for the transport of CSF or the cerebrospinal fluid. So these are the granulations. And yung makikita yung maliliit na small pinkish structures. No? Now, let's go back to that granular fovea, a feature of the calvaria. When arachnoid granulations enlarge, we call them Pacchionian bodies, they may erode the bone and they form pits, and that's what we call the granular fovea in the calvaria. Okay, that's just a commercial. So next, if this is the superior sagittal sinus, superior sagittal, then this is the inferior sagittal sinus. Okay. And this is the straight sinus. And then we have the transverse sinus. So, straight sinus, tapos merong at the confluence, excuse me, at the confluence merong right and left na transverse. Okay, sinuses. And then we have the sigmoid sinuses because they're S-shaped. Okay. And then we have the occipital sinus. And we have cavernous sinuses. So these, again, these are just spaces between the two layers of the dura. Okay, bilateral yan. Meron din siya dito. And then we have the intercavernous sinuses. Okay? Superior petrosal sinus, inferior petrosal sinus, emissary veins, na-discuss na natin yan. Now, the blood supply of the dura mater are mostly from the middle meningeal artery, branches of the middle meningeal artery, but there are also meningeal branches of the ophthalmic arteries, branches of the occipital, and small branches of the vertebral arteries. Veins are tributaries of the middle meningeal veins. Okay, so these are the venous drainage. Okay, nerve supply of the dura. Any pain arising from the dura is generally referred pain. So we perceive pain from the dura as headache. So for example, yun nga, there is abnormal pathological epidural blood accumulating. So we can perceive that as headache. Okay? So arising in cutaneous or mucosal region supplied by the involved cervical or division of the trigeminal nerve. Next layer of the three meninges is the arachnoid mater. It is thin. This is the intermediate layer. It is separated from the pia. The pia is the last layer under the arachnoid mater. It is separated by what we call the subarachnoid space, which contains the cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, remember that. The layer under the arachnoid mater, which is the subarachnoid space, not the layer, but the space, no? The subarachnoid space contains the cerebrospinal fluid. It contains fibroblasts, collagen fibers, and some elastic fibers. It is thin, but it can be manipulated with forceps. It is avascular. Although closely applied to the meningeal layer of the dura, it is not attached to the dura. Remember that dura mater is above the arachnoid mater. It is only held against the dura mater by the pressure of the cerebrospinal fluid in the subarachnoid space. Okay? Last is the pia mater. It's just a delicate internal layer. Okay? It is even thinner than the arachnoid. If the arachnoid is avascular, this one is highly vascularized. It is difficult to see, but if you will encounter a cadaver brain and you see that the brain is shiny, the one that gives its shiny appearance is the pia mater. But you cannot separate it anymore from the surface of the brain. It's really adherent. Okay, it already follows all the contours of the brain. So the shiny part of the brain, that's the pia mater. The arachnoid and the pia mater, they are continuous membranes, and collectively, pag pinagsama sila, si arachnoid plus si pia, they are called leptomeninx. Okay? So arachnoid trabecula is web-like, and it's passing between the arachnoid and the pia. So as illustrated, as pointed by the red arrows. It's composed of flattened, irregularly shaped fibroblasts that bridge the subarachnoid space. Okay? Okay, makinig mabuti dito. I will just point out to you what are natural and not natural spaces. So just remember that the epidural space, as I've emphasized kanina, it's not a natural space. Okay? When it becomes a space, it is pathological. Okay? The potential pathological cranial epidural space is not continuous with the spinal epidural space, because the spinal epidural space is a natural space. Okay? So remember that the cranial epidural space is not natural, but the spinal epidural space is a natural space. occupied by the epidural fat and venous plexus. The subdural space also is not natural. A space may only develop in the dural border as a result of trauma. Okay? So again, the space between the dura and above the dura, they are not natural spaces. The only real space is the subarachnoid space because it contains the cerebrospinal fluid, trabecular cells, arteries, and veins. Clear po yon, section B?
Yes po.
Okay. CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, is a clear fluid similar to blood plasma in constitution. It provides nutrients, but it has less protein and a different ion concentration. It is formed by the choroid plexuses of the ventricles of the brain. For the cranial fossa, so again, this is the internal surface of the cranial base or the basicranium, no? So it has 3 large depressions that lie at different levels. Yun yung anterior, middle, and posterior cranial fossa. So this is the anterior, the butterfly is the middle, and this is the posterior. Kung nasan yung foramen magnum, that's the posterior cranial fossa. Yun ang naman ang tatandaan. Okay? So anterior cranial fossa is at the highest level, but it is the shallowest of the 3 cranial fossae. Okay? It is formed by anteriorly by the frontal bone, at the middle by the ethmoid bone, and at the posterior area by the body and lesser wings of the sphenoid. What are the possible questions regarding the cranial fossa? I might give a bone, especially at the border. For example, the anterior clinoid process. Ayan. Is the anterior clinoid process part of the anterior cranial fossa or middle cranial fossa? Mga ganyan. Okay? Is the foramen magnum part of the middle or the posterior cranial fossa? Is the lesser wing of the sphenoid still part of the middle cranial fossa or part of the anterior cranial fossa? Yan yung mga possible questions sa cranial fossa. So I will not dwell so much on the slides. And then for the cranial nerves, this will be discussed naman in your micro. Okay? So I just provided you with a medyo bastos. I'm not sure. Siguro alam niyo naman na yung ano, no? But a more bastos mnemonics, mas madaling matandaan, di ba? So yan, for the 12 cranials. And also to easily remember if the nerve is sensory, motor, or both, or mixed, no? So some say Mary Money, but my brother says big boobs matter most. So S for sensory, M for motor, B for both. Okay? So yun lang yun. And then for the other possible questions na pwedeng lumabas for the cranial fossa topic are the foramina and the transmitted structures. Structures within that pass through each of the foramen, okay? Oh, by the way, hindi pala foramen yung pronunciation on it's foramen daw, okay? Pag ginugal niyo, wala akong nakitang foramen, it's foramen. So, nasanay na lang din kasi kami sa foramen, but it's actually foramen. So, dito, just focus on this table. So, na ba siya? Ayan, okay? So these are the structures transmitted by each of the foramen. So focus lang kayo dyan. Do not dwell so much on the slides. But for further studies, kung gusto nyo mag-doctorate sa cranial fossa, pwede nyo tsaka cranial nerves, pwede nyo basahin lahat ng mga slides na yun. Okay? Section B, any question? Anything that you would like to clarify?